I pull into the garage. My car is rushed by law enforcement people who are screaming and have a gun out and they're pointing it at my face. I'm being told, you're in hot water. We know that your husband was arrested. We know you visited him in Germany. And they said, we know you have information. And all you have to do is just tell us what you know. And I wasn't going to say anything because I'm literally watching these people destroy my home. This isn't somebody that I really want to confide in.
One of the most controversial things about the way the federal criminal justice system works now is something called the trial penalty. And so it's just become standard practice that prosecutor will go to a defendant and say, you've been charged with a crime and you're either going to plead guilty and cooperate or we're going to crush you. And so the defendant is confronted with a favorable offer for a plea agreement if he pleads guilty, and potentially decades in prison if he exercises his constitutional right to go to trial, because he's not going to get any credit for accepting responsibility if he goes to trial.
I could not plead guilty to everything that they accused me of, so I pled not guilty. And ultimately, I was convicted for conspiracy, and I received a 24-year sentence.
Part of the goal of the conspiracy law is to make sure that the most senior level of those in the criminal organization are justly punished. The problem is when you flip it around, and the lowest level people in the criminal organization get punished just like they're the kingpin. And that's the big problem in the way in which the conspiracy laws are being applied.
My mother calls me and she said, well, I need to tell you something. And I'm thinking the worst. She said, well, Amy is featured in Glamour magazine. She's been in prison for a number of years.
And why that was such a catalyst was suddenly we had something tangible to hand to people.
The community found out and my brother got involved and of course my father and Senator Bumpers and Senator Pryor, and everyone started actually looking into the case and seeing, well, what could have possibly happened here? This just doesn't seem right.
My story and case started gaining momentum, and we got, I think, up to 15 politicians who wrote letters supporting my clemency.
When I read it, I was sympathetic to her because I thought that her husband was the primary driver of the offense. She was clearly had a subordinate role in the offense. And she was caught up in the web of these conspiracy laws that are extremely broad-ranging, and you don't have to do very much to get yourself stuck in a case like that.
I went to my case manager's office and walked in the door, and she said, she was in a frenzy, and she said, where are you going to release to? And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, where are you going to live when you get out of prison? And I said, well, I guess with my parents for a while. And she said, because I've got to set you up on probation. And I said, why? And she said, you're going home. And I couldn't process it. I was just like, and so my reaction was, I think I was sitting down, so I stood up, and I sat down, and I stood up, and I sat down, and I said, what do you mean? And she said, you've gotten executive clemency. President Clinton has ordered you out, and you have to be out today by 5 o'clock.
The president had granted her petition, and she was home that afternoon, that evening. They let her out that day.
It was really great, because we always got bad news in there. Nobody ever got good news. And it was really nice to have all the women walk me across the compound. And there was that moment on the compound of victory. But it was really hard too, because you have to leave so many people behind.